Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode, I take a look at 1997's Batman and Robin. And yes, this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. I know this has been done too many times before, but I just couldn't resist myself. We're looking at an 11% on the tomato meter and a 16% on the audience score. And to put that in perspective, that is a total count of 89 critics for that 11% on the tomato meter, and a total of 554,063 reviews to comprise that 16% audience score. Let that sink in for a second or two. Batman and Robin is unarguably the most rotten of every superhero movie made by a major studio. It is the final of the original Batman series, which was begun in '89 with Michael Keaton's Tim Burton directed Batman. It is so bad, this thing should have just killed Batman off forever. But again, we know that Batman returned and was redeemed in Batman Begins. But this is not even comparable to anything before or after. This is not just representative of the original Batman films and how bad they were. This one is far worse than all of the others. If you went back and watched Batman Forever, you would have seen a serious attempt at a Batman movie, of which at the time many people enjoyed it. It's largely forgettable to me. But then it was followed by this Batman and Robin, and this was a serious attempt at a Batman movie to make it enjoyable, to appeal to adults and kids, and it was not meant as some kind of parody. It was not meant as a homage to the original 1960s Batman TV show. It wasn't meant to do any of that. It wasn't meant to be funny. But that's the way it was taken. It was laugh out loud funny. I'm saying it was laugh out loud funny from the perspective of somebody that didn't pay money to see it in the theater. The people that saw this in the theater weren't laughing because they paid money and they were quite angry. I saw this about, 6 months later on home video release. And to me, it was just really stupid. And I had drank beer at the time and I found it funny. Again, this is in '97, not years later that I found this funny. It was funny at the time after a few beers because it's just so bad. It's so terribly, terribly bad. It's hard to know where to begin. There are so many reviews out there that have spent a lot of time on this. Just to ease into it, this film actually designed the bat suit and the Robin suit to have nipples, to like have prominent human nipples on it, not functional in some way, but just to show human nipples. For example, when it shows Batman and Robin suiting up, it actually zooms into tight zoomed in shots of their butts in their suits. It is very weird, and it does it like it's trying to make the audience laugh, but it isn't. It's trying to do this seriously, even though it looks like it's a parody of a Batman movie. I laughed out loud the first time I saw it and had to rewind the tape to see it again to see what I thought I saw. And sure enough, the director zoomed in on their butts, and he did it like deliberately, but he wanted us to take this as a serious Batman movie. Okay. Also, it was obvious that this had a lot of shameless toy merchandising. The film was shot in a way that the plot was secondary only to getting all these toy things and vehicles put into scenes to sell toys, and you could see the desperation on the part of maybe Hasbro or whoever to get their toys featured into this film. They must have already produced the toys and had them in the warehouses ready to go, and this movie had to feature those toys even if it made no sense for the plot. It just had to. It was desperate. You could feel the desperation, and I could feel it in 1997 when I watched this on home video. That's how desperate it feels as an attempt at marketing toys. This is also very offensive to anybody that expected a real movie here. And the first action sequence of this movie is almost like Batman and Robin on ice, literally. They're like ice skating. They have ice skates that pop out of their shoes, and they have hockey sticks, and they're fighting Dr. Freeze, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, on ice as though this is some kind of Batman on ice musical. That's how bad this is. I'm not joking. There's a lot of action in this movie that it's clearly wire fu. They are like leaping through the air on wires and jumping as though there are wires carrying them through the air. It's completely ridiculous and stupid. There is another scene in which Batman actually extends out his hand and shows that he carries a Batman credit card with a forever expiration date. And in place of the Visa logo, there's like a fictional Gotham Bank logo. It is so bad and cringeworthy and stupid, and it just like you don't know whether to laugh or cry if you're expecting a serious scene. And there's also a musical number at this auction scene in which there are costumed, like really bad costumed gorilla people dancing with Poison Ivy. There's a giant purple gorilla dancing. For what purpose, I don't know, but the director needed to show this to us in this scene. There's also an endless supply of Mr. Freeze, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He continuously just makes one-liner jokes, one after the other, making fun of ice and freezing people, and freeze jokes and frost jokes and snow jokes and cold air jokes endlessly, and that's all he does as Mr. Freeze. And then the character of Bane, who we see later in The Dark Knight Rises. The Bane that's portrayed in this is basically just like a roided up muscle man that's been tinted or painted green, and he grunts a lot and he's really stupid. And then there is the character of Poison Ivy, who just endlessly talks like some kind of porno girl and is always using sexual innuendos that are just outright cringeworthy and would fit in a porno version of Batman or Robin. And that's all Uma Thurman does to portray her, is just like this porno actress version of Poison Ivy. And then there's the Batgirl that shows up in this. There is a Batgirl played by I guess I can't remember her name. She's so forgettable now. She shows up, and she's a relative of Alfred the butler, and once she turns into her Batgirl, gets her Batgirl costume put onto her, she's an instant superhero now and joins them to fight the bad guys, and she has all her karate kicks and abilities just because she put on her Batgirl suit. I don't even know where. I mean, I'm just throwing a few things out there. I wouldn't even know where to begin if I were to truly show you how bad this was. And good luck finding it, because this is another film that's been removed from streaming because of our glorious streaming wars that we're now in 2019. So you can't just stream this off Netflix anymore. So if you want to see how bad it is, you're going to have to shell out some money or find somebody that has this somewhere out there on DVD or God forbid, VHS. There's probably a lot of those out there somewhere. Let's get right into the Rotten Reviews, and it should be like shooting fish in a barrel, because you just don't know where to start on this. It should also be funny to note that this movie's 2 hours and 7 minutes long. It's crazy long. So we're going to find 4 and 5 star reviews, I'm sure, and it's going to be entertaining to find out how they justify sitting through that 2 hours and 7 minutes without just wanting to, demand your money back if you were in the theater. So let's start out here. We have one right off the bat from November 12th of 2019. 3-star review. Loved this movie as a kid. Obvious it has its flaws, but sometimes the experience when watching a movie alters your decision. I miss putting on my Batman costume and flying around and watching this movie. If you're like 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, okay, maybe you could have enjoyed this, but again, 3 stars, please. I somehow suspect that it didn't sell all the toys that the toy companies were hoping it sold, and a lot of those toys probably ended up going into incinerators, I would imagine. 1 star. I thought this movie was a new beginning for Batman, but boy was I wrong. I was expecting a reboot for Batman. I saw it with Karen Gillian, and she helped me forget about it. Okay, speaking on a reboot for Batman, Batman Forever had Val Kilmer. It was forgettable to me. This one had George Clooney, and George Clooney didn't attempt to make some serious Batman voice like the other actors did, and he didn't attempt any kind of Christian Bale Batman growl that people make fun of now. He just flat out played himself as a soap opera star, George Clooney, and introduced himself like, "Oh, hi, I'm Batman. How do you do?" It was really weird, and that's how he was. He was like a Batman that was just George Clooney with a Batman suit on, and that's how he played it. Um, Not forgettable like Val Kilmer, just really off-putting and pointless. But he got paid, I guess. Half a star, a very emotional movie. I cried so much. I left the theater and had dinner with Anna de Armas, and she comforted me. Okay, sarcasm. 1 star, Batman and Robin is an absolute train wreck. The new characters and villains that they brought in I felt were really weak, and I didn't do those characters right. I'm mainly talking about Alicia Silverstone and George Clooney. There she is, Alicia Silverstone, very forgettable to me. She played Batgirl. Um, it was pointless to have her there, but they also, I will, I will remind you, to be fair, the director didn't just have tight butt shots of Clooney and Robin. He had a tight butt shot or two of her when she suited up, just so that it was fair. Her butt wasn't bad in the suit, but otherwise, yeah, we got the butt shot of her when she suited up as Catgirl, or Batgirl, sorry. Continuing, you can tell watching this film that George Clooney was a horrible choice to play Batman, and Alicia Silverstone was also not a good choice to play Batgirl. I mean, just the way George Clooney talks and moves as Batman just puts me in a coma. Yeah, it's George Clooney taken out of one of his Folgers commercials, and he just put the Batman suit on, and he's Batman, everybody. Let's go do this. Yeah, really bad. Half a star. The worst Batman movie ever. Agreed. Everybody agrees. 3.5 stars. An absolutely terrible broken movie I always enjoyed since I was a kid. I remember my dad taking me and my brother as kids. Me and my brother were like, yeah, Batman, yeah. As an adult, Batman and Robin is one of my favorites. So bad it's funny. Yeah, if you're drunk, you'll laugh your ass off at this, remembering just how bad this was. Um, if you watch this today, there's even more bad things that you forgot about that were in it from before. You know it's bad, but you would probably have to watch this thing like 7 or 8 times just to catch every bad thing in it. That's how bad it is. It is literally one of those movies that's so bad it's good. I recommend drinking though. 1 star, Joel Schumacher's tongue-in-cheek attitude hits an unbearable limit in Batman and Robin, resulting in a frantic and mindless movie that's too jokey to care much for. Yeah, half a star, not English. 5 stars, best Batman movie, my all-time fave. Well, if you want like a comedy, okay. Half a star, oh my god, it's so awful and worst, I hate this movie. You know it's quite a fall from Tim Burton's Batman, and you know I'm not a fan of Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. To me, it was dumb. You know, I never liked it. I wanted a serious Batman. I'm not a comic book Batman fan, but I know what he is, and it's not something that's supposed to be funny and stupid and overly flowery and colorful. And that's what Tim Burton made Batman into me. To me, like, it was Jack Nicholson just made it stupid, and the Penguin made it stupid too in the sequel. So I don't think any of these Batman movies appealed to me, but this one was over the top, just dumping on itself how bad it was. So I'll leave that there. 3 stars, it's cheesy but nostalgic. Yeah, not 3 stars. I would say this is a solid half a star movie. Um, Production value, maybe it could go to 1 star just for, you know, the amount of money that was put into costuming and all this stuff, but it was such a mess that I say half a star. That's my fair star rating on this. Half a star. Half a star, Jesus effing Christ. That's all I got to say. 2.5 stars. This film had a lot of missteps. It was a straight-up comedy that wasn't funny. George Clooney was a serviceable Bruce Wayne that seemed to be mired in brooding as Batman. Chris O'Donnell's performance as a 30-ish Robin, the boy wonder, is just not very good. Alicia Silverstone shows her awful acting as Batgirl that makes you wonder how she ever was an actor. Michael Gough was, as always, a great Alfred Pennyworth. For the villains, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze was okay, with a sometimes menacing. You think he was sometimes menacing? He just was completely cartoonish. He laughed. He was laughing at himself. He was so busy spouting ice reference one-liners that you could tell Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't taking this seriously. If you think he was menacing, what were you, 2 or 3 or something? I kind of liked the CGI. I kind of liked the electrical effects from his freeze gun. I thought it was cool at the time. I still think it looks pretty cool. Otherwise, he's making fun of himself and it's obvious. 4 stars, enjoyable action romp. Maybe if you want the Batman on Ice musical, then okay. 3 stars, so bad it's good. 3 stars, I actually liked this one. Seems I'm in a rather small crowd. Yeah, 2.5 stars. Good characters, maybe not the right actors. Please redo this movie with the right cast, same characters and villains, mainly villains. No, you think you want Poison Ivy and Bane together. If you actually want all that in a movie, why not just play like one of the Arkham games on like PS4? I recommend like Arkham Asylum or Arkham Knight. It does a better job of getting those characters in there, and they're set up better, and it's over the top, but it's over the top in a good video game way. This is completely shit even compared to those Batman Arkham games. 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it just like the previous movie. I really liked the art style. The story isn't the strongest, but it's weirdly immersive and entertaining. Yeah, like Batman on Ice. 3.5 stars. It's a guilty pleasure. 1 star. Honestly, now I don't know why I liked it when I was a kid. Yeah, you have to be in the right mindset. If you actually enjoyed this as a little kid, come back to this as an adult. Bring your 6 pack or your 12 pack of whatever choice of beer. You're going to need it. Otherwise, you're not going to get through this. 1.5 stars. What did I just watch? Save your time for something better than this trash heap. George Clooney as Batman is about as embarrassing as it gets. Robin's character is unlikable in all ways. Arnold as Mr. Freeze is a joke to say the least. Yeah, he's joking. Arnold Schwarzenegger knows what he is in this. He's making fun of it. 0.5 star, abysmal, atrocious, bad. I'll give this film this much. The city building models look good, and the opening set of the Natural History Museum looks fine enough. Despite this, the film script, written by Akiva Goldsmith, is made up mostly of groan-inducing awful puns. The costumes are some of the worst I've seen on film, plus the numerous suit-up scenes are laughably bad and gratuitous. The actors also seem to all sleepwalk through their roles, giving terrible performances, every single one of them. Yeah, this is right on the money. The suit-up stuff alone is just like, the director had to know what he's doing. He was like giving everybody in the crowd the middle finger right off the bat with that. It's just, you don't do that by accident. There's no way. And you know, I've seen an interview from the director where he actually apologizes that people didn't enjoy the movie and apologizes for what he did. But come on now. He should have just admitted that he did those bat suit up butt shots, like that was cool to him and that he will stand by that. He should be a man and actually stand up for what he did. He did something no other director had the balls to do. He actually did that. He should just own it, you know, and I'm sad that he didn't own it, at least for that part alone. Just those butt shots. I mean, watch it and see what I mean. You have to own that, really. 4.5 stars. It's my childhood. I can't really hate it. Yeah, that sounds like the Phantom Menace prequel Star Wars fanboys that just, I'm sorry, you know, they were like 7 or 8 and they just cannot admit that they saw something bad. Okay, I understand. 0.5 star. It boggles my mind that this movie even has an 11% by critics. It can be so bad it's funny, but that still means it's bad. Clooney is the worst Bruce Wayne Batman put to film, and this is far more campy than the Adam West 60s Batman TV show by far. Yeah, you might accidentally think this is an attempt to go along with the 1960s TV show. You might think that because you know, like with the butt shot suit up scene and some of the fighting, like the fight scenes are laughably bad. Like there's a part where Batman swings his fist at Bane and misses, and then Bane swings his fist at him and misses, and then in the process Bane punches the head of a snowman, like a styrofoam snowman, and he punches the head of it off. And because of that, Bane just falls forward and collapses on the floor as though that like knocked him out. It's so bad, the choreography, but it's worse than that because in the 1960s show you had like the pow and kablam and kaboom, going across the scene, across the screen like a cartoon caption. And so it knew what it was doing and it covered up the bad fake punches with the kapow and stuff, that would be on the screen. This like does fighting that's like that, but without the cover up graphics on top. So you can see where they just miss each other and fall over. What is going on here? It's like it kind of, you could mistake that it was trying to do the 1960s thing, but the rest of the movie is too serious for that. It's just strange. Again, the director apologized, but I really think he should have just owned a lot of it and just had said, "Hey, this is what I did, and I stand by it." That would have been better, I think. But no, he straight up apologized. Half a star. I really hate this movie. This is not Batman. 1 star. At least this film gave the world some fantastic winter meme material. Yeah, it's like Batman on ice. There's ice skating. There's like Christmas imagery even in the fight scenes. It's very weird. Half a star, by far the worst superhero movie ever made. Horrific acting and unimaginative dialogue make it one of the worst films ever made. If I could give it 0 stars, I would. 2 stars. So I just watched Batman and Robin after not having seen it since I saw it in the theater over 20 years ago. And boy, is this film fucking awful. My brother and I just did a YouTube commentary review because of a fan request. While this film stinks so bad, Mr. Freeze's freeze gun couldn't mask the horrible stench. This film is still enjoyable on a so bad it's so hilarious sort of way. And honestly, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze is the absolute best thing about this movie. Yeah, it's funny. If you've got a beer in your belly or two already, when you see Mr. Freeze doing what he's doing, it is so hilarious. Even the act of him flipping switches on a control panel is funny. The way he's grunting and commenting as he's flipping the switches, it is funny. 1 star. For a long time, I defended this movie. Okay. I thought he did it. I thought it did set out to be a very specific thing and succeeded. Having not seen it in a while, however, the distance has helped to reveal to me its true lack of quality. It's awful, really awful. Just about every aspect is poorly handled, from characterization to visuals to storytelling, etc. Nothing works the way it should, and it takes a lot out of me saying that after all this time. Wow, so this guy actually defended this movie and then saw it again and determined that he had lost his mind. He was maybe suffering from some form of temporary insanity, or it's just that he appreciated it for a so bad it's good parody, and then now he's trying to take it serious. It could be that too. Half a star. This movie is batshit, the worst Batman movie of all time. Yeah, half a star. My friend and I are huge Batman fans and rarely give movies up, yet 5 movies in we had to turn it off. The acting is cringy, props look incredibly fake, and the physics is debatable. My opinion is don't waste your time or money buying and watching this movie. Yeah, don't spend money on it. It's too bad that it's been removed from streaming because it would be a free way to just get drunk and laugh. But they got to ruin it with the streaming war. Everything's got to be locked up and put away in a vault either by Disney or Warner Brothers. So it's just sad. I don't know where this is going to go. But, even the bad movies, we can't get these anymore without having to go way out of our way to do so. 1 star. Another great soundtrack. I've only seen this twice. Too market action figures, too commercial, too campy, too goofy, too confusing of a color palette, too many studio mandates, too many one-liner puns, not enough of its own originality to be a Batman movie. I'll agree on all that except for saying that somehow this was too much studio interference, too many studio mandates. I don't think so. The director apologized. He actually apologized. This was the director's vision. There's no way the studio is responsible for this because you're going to tell me that all these studio executives came in and did all this batshit stuff. What? No, this is the director. I mean, come on. It's not like just one thing was messed up on this. This is like throwing everything but the kitchen sink into this chaotic mess. No. Half a star. Who is the only guy to ever kill Batman? George Clooney. Yeah, he wasn't trying. He wasn't trying at all. Maybe he realized, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, how bad this was going to be and just decided, why am I going to try? Why? I mean, maybe he figured at the scene in which he pulls out his Batman credit card, hey, this is already so bad. Why should I even try? And I think that's probably what happened. Why would I try? If I knew I was stuck in this thing, even as an A-list actor, at a certain point, I'm like, you know what? You're getting me here, and I've got to do this. But why am I gonna like strain myself to perform? Half a star. One-liners, terrible outfits, confusing plot. Half a star. That is the worst movie I have ever seen. No, there's worse, believe it or not. Half a star. Worst DC movie ever. Yeah, I don't know if DC actually wants to take ownership of this, if there's a DC logo before this plays, wherever it does play. I'm not sure on that one, if this is actually part of the DC universe, or maybe they've quietly decanonized it. Unsure on that. 2 stars, beautiful movie to watch, but it's mostly pretty bad. Half a star, this movie is unintentional comedic genius. Yeah, I'll agree. If you're 2 beers in, this is genius. 1.5 stars. Funny and entertaining if you want to see it as a comedy, but if you saw it as a real Batman story, you will be embarrassed. Homosexual references are hurting this film, complete with some campy contents that hated by 7 to 9 year old people. The sad story from this film is Joel Schumacher didn't want Batman sequel after Batman Forever, but the so-called greedy studio forced him to do another Batman film by giving him a lot of money. So yeah, he broke his own rule and he absolutely hated the film. Okay, so here's a fan theory or a reviewer theory that the director deliberately sabotaged this in some way because he didn't want to do another. I don't know if I buy that because, again, he apologized on film, so I don't agree. Half a star. I got that in that period of time after Batman Returns had too much violence, the studios wanted something suitable for kids. But if a movie for kids doesn't appeal to adults too, it's not a good kids movie. At this point, I think even an infant wouldn't find this funny. Yeah, it was a shameless attempt to sell toys. There were scenes in the movie that didn't belong or make any logical sense, but they just needed to show off certain toys. So that's my guess, is that this was just basically a desperate attempt to sell toys, and that's what drove most of this. 1 star. I saw this at my theater. I thought it was funny then and even more funny now. Every line is a setup for bad uncle jokes, or if you like to see how many jokes you can deal with ice. If ballooned into a toy commercial and it fails in story flat on its face, you can probably get a good drinking game out of it, steer clear. I largely agree with that somewhat broken English review. Yeah, this is great. It could be a drinking game. One of those hilarious, every time Batman or every time Mr. Freeze makes a joke, take a shot of frozen vodka. 2 stars. The worst of the Batman movies. It's all about being colorful and the one-liners. Yeah, very colorful. It's like Batman on Ice, the Broadway musical. Half a star. It is plain and simple. This movie should have never been made. 1.5 stars. Now I know where the term burn this, nobody must ever see this comes from. Instead of entertaining, it's appalling. Instead of dynamic, it's toyetic. Yeah. There's a scene in which Batgirl, Batman, Robin, all of them like drive across what's obviously a polished studio floor, kind of given a hue to look like ice. They drive across and the camera shows them just driving from point A to B, and it's to sell their separate toy vehicles like Batgirl's motorcycle, etc. It's obvious and stupid, and it's obvious that it looks like it's filmed on a really bad indoor ice rink of some kind, like a polished ice hockey floor with some props put around it, some styrofoam props. It's really bad. 2 stars. It's as bad as they say, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't watch this train wreck and have a few laughs. Chris O'Donnell is actually good in this movie, and you can believe that he's sick of being treated like a sidekick and not being his own man. Clooney sucks. Arnold is Mr. Freeze, and Uma Thurman actually plays her role as sort of a self-aware of all the cheesiness. At the least, things had to get this bad so we could see, or we could have, the Dark Knight trilogy. I don't think it has anything to do with the Dark Knight trilogy. This, could have actually just put Batman on ice literally for a decade or two. So I don't see why people tell me this had to be made to be so bad to somehow get Batman Begins to be made. It doesn't make sense to me. If anything, this should have just killed Batman for a long time. Um, yeah, Uma Thurman, she plays her role so over the top and cringeworthy. It's like she's making fun of herself, and it shows. It's deliberate. It's obvious. Half a star. Sometimes I lay in my bed trying to fathom how Joel Schumacher pitched the Bat credit card scene to the producers. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because when you look at it, you're thinking, oh, maybe it's a Visa commercial, it's product placement. But no, when you rewind your VHS tape, and it's what I did at the time, you see that it's not Visa or MasterCard, it's just a fictional Gotham bank of some kind. So I don't know, maybe that was supposed to be product placement and then Visa or MasterCard or Discover card like backed out at the last minute and they couldn't get them on board. That could be because it's just too out there and opened and shown to the audience the details on the credit card. So my guess is that was supposed to be Visa, but somehow Visa backed out and wouldn't pay the price or something. Half a star. By far the worst Batman movie ever made. Half a star. Worst superhero movie ever made. Seriously, George Clooney as Batman is a miscast. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy is okay. But the worst thing about this film is Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Everything he says is just cringe. Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl is a bit bad. The worst superhero movie I have ever seen. Half a star, the worst superhero movie ever. 2 stars. Not only is the dialogue laughably bad, but the performances are also mostly terrible in Batman and Robin, and that's all thanks to Joel Schumacher's simply horrible direction. This is one of the campiest and silliest blockbusters ever made, but that also made it ridiculously entertaining for me as I've had a blast listening to progressively sillier lines of dialogue being spoken by its stupid characters all dressed in campy, over-the-top costumes. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. That's a perfect synopsis, and I'll say half a star. Peaking at half a star. I agree with these rotten reviews. They're perfectly valid. They're perfectly right on the money at 11% and 16%. Uh, this can only be recommended as something to watch when you're drunk, to laugh at, and that's my recommendation. And I will see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.